Did you know that educators refer to our current K-12 education system as the factory model for education? Why a factory? Because every student has the same requirements for graduation. When basic expectations for learning were only the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, it worked. Obviously, spelling was not a requirement. But aren't we all different? And can this be fixed? You bet it can. The core that drives the education system is standards, and is symbolized as the conveyor belt that uniformly moves everyone through the system. Everything in education is based on arbitrarily devised standards that determine everything from curriculum to testing. These standards are determined by federal and state government, local school districts, superintendents, principals, and sometimes late at night while grading papers, a teacher. Today's generation requires a better method. Let's follow Sally. In Sally's life, she will learn a lot from parents, teachers, and others, and will encounter 2 types of learning, formal and informal. You see, when Sally was just a baby, she learned informally from everything and everyone. As she got older, she entered into formal learning, which must assess the value of both teaching and learning. The reality is that each student is different, and with all the information available at our fingertips, we need to teach people to think and use information rather than just committing it to memory to progress down a conveyor belt. Sally's formal education experience will utilize a patented software method that will replace current standards and evaluate Sally against her own abilities. This education method is called Student Standardized Education. When Sally starts school, she will get a personal student evaluation for each and every subject. The comprehensive software program will determine an individualized baseline that will encompass all aspects of learning, including innate and cognitive abilities, age, language, ethnicity, and every condition that affects Sally's learning. As Sally grows, her individual baseline will constantly be updated, sometimes on a daily basis. This will establish a baseline for Sally as an individual. That's right, Sally is an individual and doesn't belong on a conveyor belt. Let's take a look at Sally's class, already in session and taking an exam. Sally's teacher, Mrs. Johnson, teaches math. Her syllabus is broad enough to cover the full range of student capacities. The math test is based on general knowledge and application of that knowledge. All of the students are exposed to the same information, then take the same exam. But Billy over there is different than Timmy, and Mary learns at a different pace than our Sally. Now, let's see how Sally and her classmates are evaluated when they are not on a conveyor belt. Everyone has been taught the same information and takes the same exam, but now everyone is graded against their own baseline. Timmy's results show he got 70 questions correct out of 100 and received a B. This grade indicates that Timmy could have done better according to his individual ability. Mary got 40 correct and got an A. Mary was also working to her ability. Mrs. Johnson's students have now been individually graded within the mass education system. With this method, there is no comparing Billy to Timmy. It also eliminates 2 major issues. 1, the competition for grade, and 2, the unjust social stigma placed on students held to arbitrary standards. Sally's school will no longer punish her with a failure label because of her learning capacities in some subjects, and by being different than other students. With this new method, students can only fail themselves. This method will also address the greater needs of more proficient students by keeping their interest and recognizing when their abilities go beyond the class syllabus. Since evaluations will be based on individual retention of content, this method will invoke a better teacher-to-student learning environment. Mrs. Johnson can now teach a diverse class without restrictive and mandatory standards. This new method turns the education system right side up. Instead of others determining what Sally learns, educators will now have to meet the requirements of Sally, the individual. This is accomplished with an open and engaged effort from Mrs. Johnson, the outcome of which will be astonishing. This new method will allow future generations to focus on student engagement rather than compliance, allow different learning rates, encourage student potential, reduce dropouts, provide an individual education, provide diversity, strengthen our teachers, and provide accurate feedback on both learning and teaching efforts. There is nothing of greater value than the mind of man. The development of that great resource is paramount to the success of the human race. We ask for your help in support of student standardized education as a replacement of our outdated factory model. This discovery is mankind's giant leap to individualized learning. With your help, we can make K-12 education relevant for today's students and future generations by educating to the individual standards to which they were born, and in our nation's spirit of individualism. Thank you.